already with all the energy around it. So thanks for bringing yours. I wanted to remind you that next month we have an event coming up, which is our annual auction, and we're benefiting Habitat for Humanity. And so I'm asking you, please participate, register your teams, help us with procuring auction items, and be sponsors. We have sponsorship opportunities. So that's posted on the website, or you can contact myself or Mindy and we can help you facilitate your contribution. And with that, I want to introduce Sharon Knowles, who is my moderator hero. She's done some pretty incredible panels that I've witnessed. And so I'm really excited to have her bring this one of her own creation. And as a veteran mortgage banker and past president of the WMBA, she's one of those women whose shoulders I stand on now, right? So thank you, Sharon, and I will leave it to you to take over.
Thank you, Lisa. That's so kind of you. And thank you to all of the panelists today and for all of you being here virtually. I would like to introduce the panelists to you, and then I will be asking them questions. Some of them I will ask all the questions to, and then sometimes I'll only ask one or two. I'll begin with Jordan Flowers. Jordan is Vice President and Branch Manager for Guild Mortgage. Born and raised on the East Side, Jordan graduated from Washington State University and holds a bachelor's degree in business administration. Jordan has built a career in the mortgage business and has been part of the industry for over a decade. His extensive experience in managing lender partnerships with builders and realtors has brought Jordan an innate understanding of the market. Jordan serves as director of the Washington Mortgage Bankers Association, and his knowledge paired with his commitment and dedication to his clients' success has grown everlasting relationships with hundreds of families seeking homeownership. Making the dream of owning a home a reality for his clients is his greatest rewards. Jordan is a member of the Chairman's Club for Guild Mortgage, and last year he produced $124 million, and one of his branches, he manages several, Kirkland and a couple in Alaska, but just the Kirkland branch, he originated $668 million. Jordan is nationally recognized with Guild, and he is married with 3 children, ages 4, 6, and 7. So welcome, Jordan. Jay Crowell is Senior VP and Regional Business Sales Manager for Cornerstone Home Lending. With a career spanning more than 18 years, Jay has stayed true to his convictions of integrity, selfless service, loyalty, collaboration, and lifelong learning. With more than $2 billion in personal production, Jay is a longtime member of Cornerstone's elite Chairman's Club, and he has managed more than $16 billion in total volume over the years. Jay is recognized nationally as an industry leader and dynamic public speaker, and Jay has presented and keynoted numerous conferences and corporate events. An honors graduate from Seattle Pacific University, Jay holds a business administration degree. He's lived in the Seattle area since 2000 and enjoys the rich arts, culinary, and culture scene. He's an avid sports fan, and he coaches and watches a lot of basketball. He travels and hikes the Pacific Northwest and paddle boards, and those are some of the things that round out his other activities outside of work. Jay is married with 2 young children, ages 8 and 10, and his favorite pastime is spending time with them. Allie Lord, Vice President and Branch Manager with Caliber Home Loans. At the end of the day, it's not about what you have or what you've accomplished. It's about who you've lifted up, who you've made better. It's about what you've given back. This is a quote that defines Allie Lord in all that she does in her home and her work life. Allie is branch manager of the Kirkland Caliber office, which is the highest producing branch in the country for any lender. In 2020, her branch served over 6,350 families for over $2.8 billion in volume. Starting in the industry in 1999, Allie worked her way up from receptionist to become one of the top 1% of mortgage loan officers in the country. Her passion and love for the business has allowed her to triple the size of the volume of the Kirkland branch in the last 3 years. Allie is often found chasing her 3 kiddos around, ages 7, 8, and 2, along their pear orchard or walking through downtown Kirkland with her husband and business partner, Chris. She's always ready to tell you about the latest podcast or book she's reading. Welcome, Allie, Jay, and Jordan. First question. Jordan, we'll start with you. What percentage of the time do you focus on originating, managing, and recruiting?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, this last year was incredibly challenging for all of us, I think, just managing time and everything coming in. I would say during COVID, it was probably about 75 to 80% of the time originating and deals coming in, and 30 to 40% of the time managing, and another 10% of the time recruiting. So more than 100% of your life was in the business last year, right? But vast majority, probably 75% originating right now.
Okay, great. Jay, what about you? What percentage of time do you focus on originating, managing, and retaining recruiting?
I would say that it's kind of a dance to your question. And, you know, the way that I look at it is there's 2 full-time jobs, and it's, you know, being a, you know, loan officer and then also being a manager. And so I think the way that I look at it is not so much a percentage of time, but really focused on what are the key activities that need to get done each day, each week, each month, each quarter. And so for me, I just have my schedule built out so that the things that I need to do and perform on get done in both buckets. And so to me, it feels like they're both 100% of my day because those are 2 jobs that require 100% of my attention, and that they just, the way that I ebb and flow through that feels kind of like a dance in my mind. So I can't really say like from a percentage. Each and every day is a little bit different. The way I kind of compartmentalize things. Some days are really heavy management, and some days are heavy on the production side from a planning, you know, perspective. But, you know, we all know that in our industry, there's that dance of back and forth, right, of reaction. And so there's a lot of time built into my schedule that is just set up to be able to handle the reaction, whether that's a reaction of helping a loan officer solve a problem or helping a realtor solve a problem.
Great answer. Great answer. Allie, what about you? What percentage of the time do you spend on originating, managing, recruiting?
Absolutely. I feel like I should take lessons from Jordan, because I was 90% managing and maybe 2% origination. Thank goodness I have a fantastic husband/business partner on the origination side. And then last year, I will be perfectly honest, I was not recruiting whatsoever. I felt like I had the most amazing loan officers that have given their all to our Kirkland Caliber office, that I said, I just want to feed them all the loans and make sure all their loans are taken care of and not recruit at all. We're now in a different season, right? And so business is different. And so similar to Jay, everything is calendared out for me. So I do follow that calendar to a T, where trying to find an even divide between recruiting, but then truly just working with our people. So last year I did a lot of management, but this year it's a lot more balanced. And I think hence the market is driving that.
That's great. Thank you, Allie. Jay, quantify 1 or 2 variables that mobilize people into action to perform at their peak performance.
I would say the variables are going to be tied to the individual's goals, but that's all centered around you know, kind of my process of working through with people on developing a business vision, a business plan, and looking at what their execution looks like on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. And so for me, I have things that, like, when I think of what a loan officer should be doing, but I don't think that that means that's what I should do, or what I do necessarily is going to be what, say, Jordan does or Allie does as a leader or as a producer. It really needs to come down to the individual, because I really believe that in the truth of authenticity, and people need to find the disciplines that make them work in their best way. For example, if I had some fitness goals, my process to getting there may look different than your goals or Jordan's goals or Allie's goals. And so we would have a different path of the things going, that we do each day to get us to our fitness goals. And so people have different production goals. And so for me, it's really about knowing your 3 to 5 key disciplines. And then it's really about doing that work with consistency. So for me, I know what all the people that I am tied to, what their, top 3 to 5 are, and then, asking them how they're doing with that consistency. And, my goal for each individual is really their goal. So if helping them, just stay on track to that is really what excites me, and what brings me joy, is helping them reach their goals. And if they raise their horizon line of where they want to go over their tenure, that's great. But I'm excited about their individual growth.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Allie, how do you motivate, quantify 1 or 2 variables that mobilize people into action to perform at their highest potential?
No, I think it's, for me, everything I do is really simple. My mentor taught me that it's all the simple approach. So either people have action based off of fear or fame. They're either fearful of where the next deal is going to come or the next month, so they're going to go into action out of fear, or they're coming off of a high and they had their best month ever, and that fame of having their best month ever is going to keep them going in that direction. So I think us as leaders, we all can identify, some people are motivated by fear and some people are motivated by fame, and it's us as their manager to be able to see where and what drives them the most, and then guide them in taking that action. So
I like that. Thank you. Jordan, what about you? Quantify 1 or 2 variables that mobilize people into action to perform at their highest potential.
Yeah, I mean, it's falling in line and echoing similar to Jay and Allie in regards to, you're never going to get the highest performance and potential out of somebody unless you know what their driving force is and what their whys are, right? So like for Jay and fitness, if they're not hitting their fitness goals and understanding what their fitness goals are, there's no way they're going to perform and hit their highest potential in work, right? Or if it's a savings goal, or if it's a purchase of a new home or car, or whatever the goal might be, you've got to kind of understand each employee and loan officer and what their goals are, and help them hit those metrics in order for them to perform well at work. Because if you're out of balance in your personal life and whatever your goals are there, you're not going to be in balance at work and pour your 100% into that, whether it's working out of fear, call reluctance. You got to understand their whys and what they're trying to achieve to get them to be at their optimal level.
Thank you. Great answers, everyone. Allie, how do you motivate and influence your loan officers the same way you do with your top performers?
absolutely. So going back, I'm a loan officer by heart, just like all of us are. And I started at the ground up. We talked about, I was the receptionist of Cobalt Mortgage when they opened their doors, and going, okay, what do I want to be and what do I want to do? And going and becoming a loan officer, someone took a chance on me. And they said, okay, you have 0 realtors, you have 0 clients, you are a fantastic assistant, but I'm going to support you in becoming a loan officer. And so someone took that chance and they believed in me. And that stays with me always, that all of us have a story and all of us have a reason for our success, but we wouldn't be there unless someone believed in us. So no matter if you are just starting out and you're brand new, or you're our number one producer, my time is going to be equally spent. I will say I probably spend more time with our new loan officers because I know they're our future. And when we go through, I'm just kind of going back to basic tactics in our branch. Anyone that joins us, if you're seasoned or not, I coach you, and I personally coach you, and we go through a whole mentorship program. So if you're closing 100 million a year, you're still going through the same fundamentals as our brand new loan officers. And so I really believe in just truly backing anyone in the industry, seasoned or not, and giving everyone the chance to succeed.
Love it. Thank you. Jay, what is your secret to success? And what would your staff say is your superpower?
I would say that my staff thinks that my superpower is talent acquisition. No, I would say that I think that they would agree with me that I don't have a superpower. And I did kind of ask a little bit in our team meeting yesterday, just kind of get a little pulse if I was right. And they were, and we kind of saw things similar in that I took it as a moment to share with them what I thought their superpower was. So it ended up turning to be a very meaningful conversation with a couple key individuals. I would say, their feedback on the superpower was my consistency, my drive to get a result, to make it happen. I would say, my two that I think about is I'm really consistent in showing up, the hard hat, the lunch pail, the boots get put on each day and I go and do the work. And I would say, when I think about the components of things, I do have a great team, and I really do believe that I am surrounded by awesome people. And I think part of that process of success over time has been tied to being around great people, not believing that anybody can do something, that people can't do something better than me. So I actually feel like every time I find somebody to do something, assign somebody to do something that I was doing, they actually do it better than I did. Or if we talk about an idea, I'm good at the vision. I'm good at like saying, hey, this is where I want it to go. But the team's way better at saying, this is what steps need to happen. And they come back and say, Jay, you're going to do these steps in our process. So I think letting people really shine is something that I'm really comfortable with, and I really enjoy seeing people excel. But I would say if I was to define my own superpower, it would be, outside of just being gritty and consistent, would be really about being comfortable, productively getting into the uncomfortable space. So whether that's a challenging customer or a loan officer that is, in a bad place or has a bad perspective, I'm very comfortable being able to go into uncomfortable situations and have a really positive outcome. And whether that's owning a mistake or taking responsibility, apologizing, but also moving the ball forward, because at the end of the day, we all need to put the ball in the end zone. And so I think that would be what I would say is my skill set is.
Thank you. That was a tremendous response, and you covered so many different things we could spend hours just on so many of the things that you just said. So I really appreciate it. You and I talked last Friday, and you mentioned you were going to ask your staff that question about what your secret and superpower is. So after talking to you, I decided to ask Jordan's ops manager what she thought his secret and superpower was.
Nice.
So I want to read that. Jordan, this is a surprise. You don't know this.
No,
So
yeah.
Lisa Jones is operations manager, and she said Jordan's superpower is his positivity and genuine caring for others, both personally and professionally. He's a natural networker because he's so interested in getting to know people, not for his own gain, but because he enjoys listening to their story. Jordan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I gotta black out my camera and cry for a minute. That's awesome. Thank you, Lisa. If you're on the call, that's amazing. No, that's incredible. Thank you, Lisa. if you were to ask me that, not knowing that was coming, I would have said I'd hope that those I work with would say kind of servant leadership is the superpower. Kind of genuinely caring about other people's business and the clients and the branch growth, spending extra hours and trying to take every call we can and set up meetings and talk about your loan officer's business and kind of making those tough calls like Jay talked about to try and find positive resolution in tough situations and leaning in and knowing that it's okay that you've got to kind of sometimes carry the beatings and the weight on your shoulders to help out. Like that is what kind of drives me there. And for the success, it's just dare to dream big, right? I was young, dumb, naive, and had some crazy dreams, and they're starting to come to fruition here. And we're just going to keep setting new dreams and new goals, right? But thank you, Lisa.
Well said. Well said. And Allie, you don't know this, but I decided to ask Jolene, one of your sales manager, what she thought your superpower was.
Oh.
And she said, Allie's superpower is her authenticity of making you feel so deeply cared for. She wants to raise you up and double your goals. And she is the true giver in our office. So Allie, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, Jolene is maybe now my new favorite person. I don't know. This is fantastic. It's interesting. Like Jay said, he brought it up. I went through this morning and I'm looking at the questions and I was talking with Michelle Palmer, who manages with me. And I asked her this question. I said, do you think it's my ability to talk? Because everyone in my branch knows I have a lot to say all the time. And she said, no. She's like, actually, it's your ability to listen. And I was like, I'm a good listener. I didn't know that. So it's interesting. I think everyone on this call that's listening, just as Jay expressed, this should be the activity in your next team meeting, is to have everyone go around and share the superpower, because it, one, just builds the team, but what you don't know about yourself, because it's awkward. When you told me to give you a bio, I didn't give it to you because it's so awkward to say, this is who I am. And but having the people that are around you all the time share what the superpower is or what you do really well, I think can only build all of us up. So thank you, Jolene, for that was amazing. I think I need you to send that to me, Sharon, so I can frame it. And whenever I have a bad day, I can look at it. But this has taught me that, we have different superpowers, I think, in different scenarios.
That's great. That's great. I got to give credit to my husband because he interviews a lot of people and that's his question at work. He makes video games. So he's always asking what their superpower is. So I thought I would share it with the panel.
Yeah.
Jordan, describe what drives you and how you focus on personal success and the locations that you are managing. And Jordan, by the way, again, he manages Kirkland and several locations in Alaska.
Yeah. What drives me? I'd say learning, growing, and developing, setting vision for myself and others are really what drive me. It's like the journey and the art of the business and the process of the business and incrementally improving and whatever it is within the business or the branch every day, every week is where I see results, and that's what is exciting. We set personal goals as a team and as a branch with Lisa and the loan officers and processors here of goals we want to hit and kind of rewards we get for doing it. But the personal goals aren't really, they're fun to hit. And you've always got to have goals, but that's not necessarily the driving force. It's kind of the incremental growth within it. And so for personal success, for me, it's more so in line with how much do I know my team, what's going on with the people in my branch, what's happening in their lives, how can I be a better resource to them to help them hit and achieve whatever goals and personal life struggles or successes they have. At the end of the day, that's what the personal success is around. We go to work and we work with everyone in our office basically family more than our own family a lot of times. So it's the personal success and happiness come from being in life and doing life together with the people in the branch and knowing them.
Thanks, Jordan. That's great. Jay, describe what drives you and how you focus on personal success and the locations that you manage. And you have, in addition to your own production, 9 branches that you manage as a regional manager. So please share.
That's a great question. And I would say, you know, for me, it's really tied to impact. You know, I think when I got into the mortgage industry, it was to, you know, serve, you know, as a loan officer and to use, you know, my financial background and understanding of, you know, utilizing debt to acquire assets. And also when you think about acquiring a home, you know, home is where we spend so much of our time. Even before COVID, you know, that's where you spend lots and lots of time. And that's where our family, you know, that's a big part of our life. And when I think about my childhood memories, you know, home is such an integral part of those childhood memories. So being able to help people do that was a big driver. You know, when I got into management, I think a lot of people asked me about it from a financial standpoint. You know, that was a good move. And honestly, that's not why I did it. And I've always kind of wondered, you know, back to that time question, like from a ROI and just a financial standpoint, I think if it would have just been all about personal production, that would have probably been a better ROI just on a revenue standpoint. But for me, the leadership part of, you know, my day and working with helping people develop, that's where I find a lot of my fulfillment. And so, you know, people sometimes say, what would you juggle between the two, or what would you give up if you had to give one? I'd say I wouldn't want to give up either, because I feel that I'm a better leader because I'm in the trenches with the people that I work with as a loan officer doing the same thing that they do. And I understand getting shopped. I understand realtors that are really demanding. I understand the importance of maintaining those realtor relationships and cultivating and developing new ones. But I also, you know, for me, if somebody said you don't get to be in the management role, I might say, well, I'm going to go find something else, because I think the relationship aspect of mortgage is great with clients, and you get to go deep. But you know, if you were a financial planner, you get to have a lot longer, deeper, connected relationship. And so for me, being able to work with loan officers and loan officer assistants and, you know, other managers and, you know, processors, it's about their development and helping them grow. And that's where I feel like I have a chance to actually leave a legacy and leave a mark of influence and impact. That's a lot more important to me than the you know, X's and O's or the dollars and cents. So for me, it's really about finding the intrinsic why. I think Jordan really nailed it when he said you really have to find the why for each individual. And so I would say I've found a lot of clarity around my why. And I feel like as a leader, you know, my biggest job is to help people identify their own why so that they can have the necessary rocket fuel to, you know, pursue their goals.
Thank you, Jay. That was an incredible response. I wondered that myself about you. Like, why are you still originating such a big amount, and then you are a regional and a senior VP? So that's very well said. Ali, I'm going to ask you a different question, all on your own. You do a great job with social media. And how has that impacted your revenue and focus and productivity? And how do you differentiate between personal and professional posts? And lastly, what do you find to be the most engaging?
Absolutely. So I will tell you, I'm not an expert at all on social. People are probably in my branch that are listening or laughing that I'm answering this question. But what I can tell you is that if I do anything, I actually look people up on social. So if I'm renting a house in Chelan at the Lookout, for example, I will look up the house name to see if they have their own Instagram page so I can look at photos. If I'm going to go to a new hairdresser, I will look them up on Instagram or Facebook and I'm trying to find them. And I realized, even though I may not fit into the demographic of someone that is on social media all the time, I find myself doing that. So if I'm doing that, I also understood that others are doing the same type of thing. So that gave me social media power. If you look at stats and the average adult and how many hours they spend on their phones and on the internet, and it's usually through social media. So right there's our answer of why we have to have a presence on social. And so what I ended up doing was outsourcing a lot of it, just because no one, a loan officer does not have time, a branch manager doesn't have time to be able to do all of course, I'm getting a phone call at the same time as I'm talking to you. So if you saw me go away for a second, I was getting a phone call. But what we need to do is be able to find what we're really good at, which is the creativity piece. So I outsource a lot of our stuff through Jolene Messmer, who is our sales manager in our office, and runs all marketing. So I divide our branch into 5 different managers that are there, and Jolene runs our marketing piece. So her and I work really closely with a company called Brantegic, and we hire them to help us with our social media presence. So I will tell you, we do that. That's our secret sauce. But when it comes to my personal, I share everything. I don't separate my personal and my business. So you're going to see my kids, like a lot of them, all the time, because that is huge in my life, or my children. You're also going to see me sharing accolades with my different loan officers and the amazing things that they're doing. You're going to see what I'm doing with my friends, and that's relatable. And I also look at, who do I follow and what is it that I like that they're sharing, and it's people that I can relate to. So that's just what we do with our social. I don't know if that helps answer it, but that's what we're doing at our level.
That is great. And whose Bronco is that? I see that Bronco in your picture a lot.
Is that yours? No.
Love that Bronco. On my screen, when I look at in the far right, in the top, and then right below you is Sarah Monzo, and I could unmute her and ask her this question, because she is the social media guru probably in the whole mortgage business. Maybe that's a good idea for another panel.
Sure.
Jay, from your leadership vantage point, what would you describe are the key indicators for successfully retaining staff?
That's a really good question. And I would say the indicators are probably going to be the engagement that they're partaking in, your events and your activities. And I would also say the amount of appreciation that they're extending to their team. I feel that, gratitude is one of the most important muscles to be exercising, every day. And I think that when people are engaged and they're grateful and they see the value that's being provided, then they're going to be, engaged. So if I see that they're, going to be long-term participants. So I would say, people's external joy factor. And I would, really quantify that into, do I see gratitude often from them? Do I see them, whether it's, the same as like a basketball team, like a really joyful basketball team that's high-fiving and div and daps and, celebrating, or the Seahawks, right? When the Seahawks are playing well and they're playing, they're winning games, the sideline looks a lot different than when things aren't going well. And so I think it's pretty evident, just based off of body language and, the amount of compliments and the shout outs and the moments of, my wife is a clinical psychologist and is specialized in relationships. And one of the kind of the foremost relationship specialists in the country is actually from University of Washington, and his name's John Gottman. And he talks about the ratio of positive to negative interactions. And I would say if the ratio is high, positive to negative with employees, they're in with you. And if the ratio is the opposite, then you're in a tough spot. And so Gottman would say in a marital relationship, just the baseline is like 2 or 3 to 1. Every positive, for every negative, you have 2 or 3 positives. And so, if the marital unit is kind of like our standard baseline, relationship that we kind of look at, and obviously that's a way more intimate relationship than you would have in work, and Gottman would say it's 5 or 7 to 1, positive to negative, to be in a healthy marriage. So I would just say, that pulse of looking at what are the encounters that I have with individuals, is the percentage, is the ratio a lot more positive versus negative? There's going to be hard things. There's going to be tough files. There's going to be things. We are in the human business, so mistakes will happen. And so what are the ratios looking like when you look at people's accounts?
Thank you, Jay. And you know what? I'm going to have you put that name of that person, because I don't know how to spell Gottman and I haven't listened, but I'm going to. So throw that in the chat, how to spell their name, because that's something to look up. Jordan, you want to talk a little bit about retaining staff?
Yeah, as managers, we can always look at kind of the basic metric KPIs of like, oh, this person's probably leaving, and then you might start engaging or seeing what's going on or whatever, and it's kind of down the road. And honestly, as managers, we've missed the boat completely. Retaining staff starts like today with all of us, myself included, because I talk about this, like I do it all the time and I always need to get better at it. But it's knowing it's knowing your people, it's being in relationship with them, it's caring about what their interests are. It's if they've got a cat and I don't have cats, sorry, anybody that have cats, it's knowing about cats and like sending your employees little gifts and loving on them and letting them know you care. I send little text messages out some mornings with like the song of the day, just because I'm feeling in that mood and trying to set the tone for the day. But your retention of staff and employees is just them honestly knowing that you care and are engaged in their business. And that's A, knowing them, talking to them, but B, as leaders and managers, is helping them achieve the goals they want to achieve in their personal life. Are they balanced? What do they want to get better at? But also in their work life, what role do they want to get to? What do they want to achieve in their career? What are their next steps, and trying to help groom them and get them there. Or financially, I know Allie, with coaching we've been in, like helping people with budgets or savings or how to invest money, like just taking a full-on approach, well-rounded approach in all aspects of life, and opening up that discussion and engaging others within the branch. Because wholeheartedly with Jay, attitude of gratitude, it's the best thing you can have, and the best engagement in office culture you could have to retain staff also, right? Creating that environment where everybody's grateful for the amount of hours and work everybody else is putting in, and showing that gratitude is what really is key to retaining staff and having great culture.
These answers are fabulous. Thank you so much, Jordan. And Allie, do you have a few things to share about retaining staff?
Yeah, I'll just say I do a reverse look on it. So whenever you're recruiting and you're talking with recruits, you're identifying why they're leaving. So why are they leaving their company? And it's not over pricing, and it's not over comp, and it's not over products. That's not why people typically leave. They leave because they don't have an avenue for growth. They leave because they don't feel like they're part of something and their leadership's not there. They leave because of culture, lack thereof culture, right? And so when you look at, and this goes to if there's a loan officer listening today, or if it's a manager listening today, those are the concepts you need to think about. If people leave because of lack of growth, lack of culture, and feeling a part of something, then how do you go correct that? So in my plan, just yesterday, I do a call every other week with the sales managers in our office, and we talk about everything we can do better. And yesterday's was talking about events and how to, in this COVID environment, like how are we going to do things differently, and being able to pick up the growth piece for individuals and pick up that culture piece that's there. So I think if we focus on why people leave and we make those topics our main priority, you as a loan officer won't lose your assistant. You won't lose your processor. You won't lose your underwriters. You won't lose your funders, because you are taking care of those things first and foremost over numbers for you or improving rates or improving product.
Thank you, Allie. Jordan, how are you recruiting and developing younger talent, given the average age of a loan officer, according to the Stratmore Group, is 52 to 55 years old? And I know you've developed some young people in your branch, so please share.
I've said it before, and I stole this from Chris Peterson, who was the head football coach at University of Washington most recently. And he used it in his program where he looks for people that have PhDs. So I look for people that are young and have PhDs. PhD meaning poor, hungry, and determined. So I'm looking for people that are poor, hungry, and determined, that have a great attitude, and getting them in. And honestly, they, especially now, they're coming through a lot of other connections in the branch. And there's a whole slew of young people that are excited about the opportunity in the business. It's working on setting the right temperament with them, that it is a phenomenal business, but there's going to be some learning and growth period with it. I don't think our education system in high school or college does enough to really talk about this part of the business or business world. There are business programs, you got marketing, advertising. Some schools probably do have some real estate business classes and coursework, but I have talked to teachers and principals and district leaders, even at the high school level, to come in and really try and start building out more of a mortgage real estate lending kind of curriculum, to start at a much earlier level and try and provide kind of another path for even 18-year-olds, 17, 18-year-olds. Now, they won't come in necessarily, but in college, they might have an idea on it, and they could internship in the summers and then build out a kind of a loan apprentice program once they come out, that they can be in for a year or two, and then get into an originating side if that's what they choose, or if they're marketing focused or operational focused, have those systems in place. But it's certainly a passion and focus of mine to continue to get the youth into the industry here.
Thank you, Jordan. And can I send you my 20-year-old son?
Absolutely. Send him on over.
He's available this summer.
Love it.
Allie, I know that you do a lot with recruiting to younger talent in your office, but specifically to the University of Washington. You want to share some things?
You know, so what we have, Caliber has been actually very supportive in bringing on younger talent. And Jordan and I, in our coaching platform that we follow, we were told about going, like, the next generation you need to go after. And if you look at the average age of a loan officer, they may not be retiring sometime in the future. And so who's joining to replace? Nobody. Nobody was joining to replace people moving out, which that was our number one focus that we had to take on. And so it sounds like Jordan's been thinking about things. And what I did is I took notes from a course that Jordan and I probably attended in the same classroom, and said, this is a fantastic idea. Let's put together a program. And so Caliber supported in what we call CalU. And we look for, I need to now steal the PhD, but we basically look for someone that is maybe right out of college, a collegiate athlete, a former maybe Nordstrom salesperson, a real estate agent, a financial advisor, that has a sales background. And they go through a very intensive 8-week course at CalU, and then they get licensed, and then they're joined a loan officer. So they are mentored and join a loan officer team for about 4 to 6 months, where we teach them everything about the business. And right now I have 6 of them in my office. And I personally, we went through the first couple months and I coached them weekly, and their mentors coaching them weekly, and CalU is coaching them weekly. And I'm watching, you know, one gentleman has 5 transactions already going. And the other gentleman has 6 transactions already going, and you're going in just a short period of time, in just a couple months, they are building these beautiful businesses. So you take the people, the PhD people, Jordan, and you give them the right tools and the mentorship, and you have just created your future. So I am very, very passionate about bringing in new talent into our industry. And if they can go into the right mentorship, they really, really will be the ones that take this business by storm.
Thank you, Allie. I'll introduce you to my son too. And Jay, I know that you have had some University of Washington football players at your branch, but I'm not going to ask you that question. I am going to ask you about your interesting story that you have around volunteerism. And please share the unique ways you give back and how that has impacted your life.
Well, you know, I think for me, a big passion is like you talked about was basketball. And so my dad was a basketball coach, and he ran a basketball camp. And so for me, one of the things that I do each year is I spend time facilitating a basketball camp, which ends up bringing a lot of inner city kids. We didn't get to have the camp last summer because of the restrictions, but you know, the year before we had I want to say 12 kids come from reservations, either from Alaska or Montana. So it's a great opportunity to be able to give back. And so you know, my wife and sphere of friends will raise money to be able to help kids that would not be able to afford an experience like that. And whenever we do a camp experience, we talk about the game of basketball, and we really want to be excellent when we teach that sport. But we also want to talk about the game of life. And we use basketball as a way to be able to mentor kids so that they can, you know, be a part of the next generation, and really, you know, bring help kids be able to understand it's more, there's more to life than basketball. And that's kind of the same kind of thing that I talked about earlier from a management standpoint. There's a lot more to life than mortgage. And I think, you know, Allie and Jordan did a really great job of spotlighting the importance of helping people, you know, on a whole level. And I think that's, you know, something that is important to me. But it's just looking for little ways to give back. And a lot of it is, you know, in the last year is looking for ways to give. And so sometimes we'll do like sales contests. And, you know, in my mind, we've done a couple sales contests in the office that are, you know, charity driven. So we'll hit like a goal, and like you can give to pick a charity type of thing. But, you know, for me, it's really helping in an area that I have passion. And we were talking to our kids this morning, is like, whatever you're excited about in life, that's really probably what, you know, has been placed in your heart as an area to pursue. So if it's, you know, if it's basketball, then pursue it. If it's Lego, then pursue it. If it's, you know, if you're excited about managing in the leadership space, then you should pursue those things. But I really think that I commend what Jordan and Allie are doing regarding developing new people. And, you know, we all need to really be accountable to that, and whatever that looks like.
Thank you, Jay. That's incredible. And so is this chat question from Susie DeVries. She's a manager with Umpqua Bank up north in Mount Vernon. And Susie attended your dad's basketball camp. So hard and rewarding, she says, and a very long time ago. So how's that? That's pretty exciting.
It's a small world. It is a small world, but the basketball community is pretty tight. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Susie.
Jordan and Allie, do you have anything to say about volunteerism and serving?
Well, I always have something to say.
Oh,
so
go for it, Allie. You start.
No,
you go. You go.
Well,
first.
All right, Jordan. My whole background, and I know that there's caliber people listening, and they're probably laughing in their chairs. But if you go back, all of us on this call, their childhood is what helps shape and form you. And you can look back on family events or whatever it may be, and who we are today. Usually it's stemming from our childhood. And I was a competitive jump roper growing up. So going through, I jump roped, and that paid for all of my college through scholarship. You would never think a simple rope would actually fund that. But when I look at who I am today, and everything that carries over in my entire life comes from that foundation of being athletic and the sport and all of that. So I ended up going and volunteering, and I coached for many, many years with jump rope, and taking kids across the country and raising money for the American Heart Association. And where I found my passion, Jay said this, anything, if you have a passion and you love it, you'll be great at it. And that was my passion. So I do the same thing in our branch, where I've taken it now, and I can't take all the credit. Our managers are doing this. It's finding what our branch is passionate about. So we do a charity of the month and charity of the quarter, where we can find organizations that we can back and support. And just this past season, where, we're in the holiday season, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and Kalisa, one of our fantastic loan officers, always is giving back to King County and adopting families. And she ended up wanting to adopt a family, but by the end of the season, the Christmas season, we ended up adopting like 11 families, raising over $20,000 for these families. And what I found is, if you can give back into the community, it's not only good for your business, but it's going to fill that like love tank that you have and bring you joy. And so I think we take, our foundation of what we found as a child and how it grew me into who I am today. And that's why I believe in volunteering and giving back. But I think the best thing we can do is share with our staff and our teams the importance of giving back and volunteering, because it's more to life than just doing loans. There's more that's out there than just closing a loan for a family and getting them in a house. And so trying to find that passion of what it is, and volunteering is huge.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Jordan,
Jay and Ellie
go ahead.
Yeah, they're spot on. And I'd say anybody that has thought about doing it or hasn't even thought about doing it, just find an organization that you're interested in and passionate about and serve, because what serving does with whatever it is and whatever passion you have, it changes the heart, right? And if we go back to optimal performance and how do you get the most out of anybody, your heart has to be in the right place. And so if you're serving the community or serving an organization or a cause that you're 100% committed to, you're filled with that joy Allie was talking about, and it spills over into your work and the way they communicate with employees, or the way you communicate with recruits or borrowers, right? And serving is huge, and finding whatever organization pour into it. It just creates that gratitude and that gratefulness, because not only are you, it's like Christmas, you'd rather give. I'd rather give than receive, honestly, at this point in life, because I get so much more joy out of serving others and seeing the joy that it brings to others. And it's so important to serve your communities and the organizations and causes that you're passionate about, because it's going to impact and fulfill your cup to succeed in the other areas of life. So I know Jay and Ellie do an awesome job at it, and I'm always looking to serve the community and kids' school and sports programs, coaching. I mean, just any of it. Be involved, be in your community.
That is great. Very well said. It's better. I feel better about giving than receiving too. So I thank you for bringing that up. Mental health has really become something at the national forefront with this pandemic. What does self-care look like for you? And Jay, we'll start with you. On a weekly basis, given that you're pulled in so many different directions at work, originating and managing others at full scale, what do you do to fill yourself up so you can pour out as a leader?
I think it starts with having some boundaries, and I think it's also centered around knowing kind of the big rocks in life, like knowing your 3 to 4 things as a leader that you need to do each week, and as a loan officer, knowing those things. So for me, exercise is really key. So I try to get some form of activity, even if it's just a long walk with my dog and some yoga. or if it's more of an intense workout, but making sure I'm staying active. And then, you know, one of the big, I would say, top priority of my life is, you know, being a husband and being a dad. And so when I feel like I'm really fulfilling those key components of my life, then I feel like I have the fuel for the other thing. And obviously, they are a big part of my intrinsic why when it comes to working hard and working consistently. So, you know, I've always kind of thought from a standpoint of, am I approaching work the way that I want my kids to approach school or their other passions and priorities? And I don't get to expect of my children anything that I don't demand of myself. And so that's something that I really, really try to live out. And so, you know, whether that's how I, you know, spend my personal time, you know, what I'm reading, but I would say things that are really important to me are making sure that I'm creating some space for my spirituality, that I'm creating some space for my wife and my kids, getting some exercise, being mindful about what I eat. I think I got hit in the head. I had a bad head injury about 10 years ago. So I used to feel like I was Superman. I could run around and not sleep at all. But I really, since then, I've tried, the big key is to make sure I'm getting 7-8 hours a night of sleep. So I'm really pretty disciplined about my sleep and making sure that happens, because I think rest is important. And I think managing expectations around the weekend, even if it's like Saturday, like I coached 2 basketball games. My daughter had a soccer game. We had, you know, had some dinner with friends. Like it was a crazy day different than work. So like Sunday was like, hey, it's going to be chill because I want to walk in on Monday ready to go. And so making sure you're kind of setting that up. And I think the last one is, for me, I kind of need a quarterly vacation because I run really hard. And so I think the best things for us is like when we just scheduling those out, because if you don't plan it, then they don't get done. And so making sure that I get some like a time of reset, partly because like the first quarter, I had a trip last week or 2 weeks ago. About a month out, you're like, oh, I got a trip. And you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to go, but you're kind of like, I got to get all this stuff done before I go. So it puts you into that mode. And then I'd say the last little piece to that is, I think something that really helps me from an efficiency standpoint is a boundary that my wife set. Our kids go to bed at a specific time, and they have since my son was a baby, and there was no bending on that. I wasn't like, hey, can you keep him up another 15 minutes because I got to work on this deal. It was like, you missed your time with him. And I remember like I got home like that first year, a couple of nights, and I didn't get to see my son except for like a breakfast kind of out the door. And I was like, it doesn't matter how much we close. It doesn't matter what I do. If I don't have a good, right relationship with him, then this sucks. So it creates that, you know, like day before a vacation, you know, kind of pressure every day, because I know I got to get home for the 5:30 dinner. If I don't have that, if I miss that, then it's like, shoot, like I missed the real reason why I'm here is to be a dad. And so I want to be a great dad, and that kind of trickles down to everything.
Thank you. There's so much to unpack there. Thank you so much. That is a great response. And this is, by the way, this is our last question because I know we're coming up against one. So Jordan and Ali, I'll let you answer that. Jordan, why don't you go first? How do you practice self-care?
Yeah, well, so to follow up with Jay, like Jay, spot on, man. There's a coach that we've had in the past that basically, for me, made me reevaluate probably 8-10 years ago, just what we do during our day that steals time from the things that matter, or our family, right? Like he got into social media and everything else. Like every minute you're not focused on the work you need to get done is stealing time from your family, your loved ones, your activities, your hobbies, whatever it is, right? So when you're working, like work, because you could get the work done and then you could go do the things that you love, right? So spot on what Jay was saying, like your wife putting them down at that set time, like, hey, you missed it. I was in that same boat, especially last year. But more so, don't let activities or things distract you in the middle of your day that rob you from the joys that you should be having. Last year, I was horrible at this last year. Health and fitness, sleep, spot on, Jay. Like I could notice those are instrumental and key to some of my attitude and happiness, and that was waning last year. But I would say sleep and exercise first and foremost. I believe readers are leaders, earners are learners, right? Some of you heard that before. So I've always got books I'm sharing with the team and books I'm reading to have conversation with and try and grow and learn and develop there. This is breaking news, but Jay's going to be my personal nutritionist and health advisor for the next year. So thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
I can't wait to send you my hourly rate.
But yeah, that's a big push just with me and my team this year. Like, and especially we've been having meetings about it. We're gonna get a fitness plan and nutritionist plan going, because that what you put into your body with words, with food, with exercise, your body pours out and your attitude pours out. So those are big focuses for us, and it's the family time. I'm never more at peace and better at work when I feel like I've really gotten that time to be with the things that matter, which is my family, and every once in a while getting out and getting around a golf in, right? But recharge yourself with the things that you love, and that for me is family and being outdoors, really. So Allie, you can take us home.
No, I'll try to be quick because I know people are under a time crunch, but you brought up mental health, Sharon, and this was something that we talked about in our office. And I actually had a life coach and counselor come and speak to anyone at Caliber that pretty much wanted to listen in Washington State. And one of the things that he specifically said is everyone's cell phone is at their fingertips at all times. And now that we're in a pandemic, people think, and you're working from home a lot of times, you can work around the clock and never stop. And so the transition that we have, we used to go, okay, I would drive to my office, and on my drive home, I would do a few phone calls, and then I knew the Fred Meyer, right? You're driving down the freeway, the Fred Meyer. Once I get there, I'm 10 minutes from my home destination. Let's turn it off and let's mentally prepare to walk in the door with my 3 kids and my husband, right? We don't have that. I open my bedroom door, and right there, I'm greeted by my whole family. And I'm usually still on a phone call talking as I'm walking out. You don't have that transition. Mentally, our brains are not prepared for that. And so we have to think about the activity we're doing when we roll out of bed. Do you have a morning routine? Do you roll out of bed and in your pajamas go log onto your computer because it's right next to your bed? It's what most of our employees are doing. And then they work around the clock and they're doing that, and they don't have that transition time. And so I think it's for all of us to be very conscientious of what we're doing and how we're working through this pandemic. So I think that's huge. And then going into everything Jordan and Jay were saying with nutrition and exercise, the only, I want to just say the only other thing I think is so critical is your morning routine. And everyone should have a morning routine. And if I don't have that morning routine and I go out of order, my day's off. It just is. So you have to make sure, I don't care if your morning routine is getting a cup of coffee and sitting with your kids and watching them play, if it's going and working out or whatever that is, where you journal, you create this morning routine that builds you up. My morning routine, every morning, I listen to either, write this down, Ed Milet, Jay Sheedy, Jesse Itzler. Like, I am the podcast queen as I'm pushing my stroller down the boulevard in downtown Kirkland, listening to my favorite podcasts. And then most of my staff will get these text messages, listen to this podcast. It's incredible. Like, it's the best podcast ever. So that is my morning routine. And I think everyone should find whatever it is that speaks to them and put, if it's reading, if it's a podcast, if it's journaling, and incorporate that into the morning routine.
And Sharon, before you wrap us up, and I know Jay and Allie feel this way, but we'd be completely remiss without honestly thanking our ops managers and processors and underwriters. This is I know, big production last year and producing manager call and how do we balance it, but none of it is possible without our ops staff that I know poured their lives into this business last year. So for Jay's ops team, for Allie's ops team, for us at Guild. Jamie was on, I saw earlier, and a few others from the branch here. I mean, thank you to all of you, because nothing was possible without
Correct.
you were slaving away for a year straight. Craziness, rolling out of bed, like Allie said. So
Great
just wanna
call.
say that.
Great call, Jordan. I think Allie, what you said in the morning routine is crucial, and I'm a huge advocate of it. Just a quick plug. If anybody has done it or seen it, the 5-minute journal. I've been using it for a long time. I've gone through stacks of these, and it's just an easy hack. And it's a simple discipline to do, to be able to like create a morning routine. Because even if you just did this in the morning and the evening, it's a great way to be able to kind of start with in the right mindset. And it also gives you kind of like a good little discipline tool on creating a positive outlook on the shortcomings of the day, on how to improve and get better moving forward. So
Great gift.
I would highly recommend the 5-minute journal to anybody and everyone. And I can almost do a barometer on my mental health on how consistent I am on just that little discipline.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you all for your words of wisdom, opening up, and you're also genuine and so full of knowledge. It was a great panel, and I thank you. Everyone enjoy this beautiful weather, and until next time.
Thank
you for attending.
you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate Allie and Jordan. Great stuff.
Thanks, Jay. Good
Thanks,
to see you both.
Guys.
Have a great day.